Oh no!
What are you guys doing here?
I don't know, man.
Oh man.
Well,
Who are you?
Because you guys are here.
I guess as long as we're here, we can talk about something.
yeah.
What we all just see.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Well, we just saw that cool new movie, X-Men Apocalypse. Why don't we talk about that?
Really? Yeah,
I think
we
we
did see that movie.
I think we should talk about that.
What we should call ourselves?
All right, let's do it.
I don't know.
We're pretty nutty.
I say we are.
I mean, we like pop culture.
Us
Right?
too.
Oh my goodness, guys. I
All right,
have our
guys.
name.
What is it, Freddie?
The Culture Nuts. We are the Culture Nuts.
This is the first episode, everybody,
First episode of the Culture Nuts.
The Culture Nuts.
We are the Culture Nuts.
and we are nutty about
And we
everything that has to do with culture.
Yes.
Well,
And we-
some things culture.
Some
Not
things
everything.
culture.
But we have a pretty
That's
wide
true.
horizon
That's true.
around here.
You come here for all the culture needs, movie reviews,
Tour reviews, Funko Pop reviews, I'll be
Funko
taking
Pop
care of
reviews.
those. Also,
Yes,
your
indeed.
subscription boxes, I'll be
subscription
taking
boxes,
those as
yeah.
well.
skits. Sometimes I'm sure we'll
Sometimes, yeah.
come up with something like that. Many more things in the future, but
But as of now, we are bringing you our first review, and that is the review of Bryan Singer's X-Men Apocalypse.
so excited.
Came out
For
a
this.
week ago, and we are here to tell you all about it.
Anybody want to start off with any thoughts?
Well,
Spoiler
I'm
reviews?
just gonna say I saw it first out of all of us.
Okay,
I went
yes.
and saw the
Wait. Before we start, we should get into our names. I just realized
our
this.
names.
This is,
Oh
yeah,
yes,
this is important.
I am Freddie.
Yeah, I'm Keon.
And I am Connor.
Now that we have the pleasantries.
There you
out
go.
of
Now
the
we
way.
have our
Yeah.
names there.
Let's get
I
a
was the
little
first
bit
to see
nutty
it.
now.
I actually went with my brother and saw the premiere of the movie, and I gotta say I got there really early. You know,
Right.
sat there in line, looked like a loser with my X-Men shirt on, as always.
Oh, yeah.
And when I walked to the theater, I didn't know what to expect. But there was a certain point in the movie where I just didn't stop smiling. And I think that was the amazing thing about that movie. I kept smiling. I didn't know why I was
It's a
smiling.
really good
I'm-
assessment.
I have never
Right.
read any of the X-Men comic books, but this movie makes me want to go and read more about some of these heroes.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that later. But I love this movie. This is my favorite X-Men movie now.
And just so you guys know, this, if you couldn't tell by the title, this is going to be a spoiler review
Spoilers.
of the movie. So yeah, get ready for that. Don't get
Spoiler
Spoiler
alert.
review.
It's gonna be
Spoiler
right there.
alert.
Do not
Okay.
get mad at us
On my
in the
face.
comments
We are
or
going
dislike
to
the video.
spoil everything. If
Exactly.
you like knowing about the movie, then
If you haven't seen the movie,
but-
exit out of this video right now and go watch X-Men Apocalypse.
And then
or
come back.
You are not a nut.
Yeah, and then come here.
So Freddie gave his thoughts. You want to
Yeah, sure.
chime in on that? Just initial thoughts.
Honestly, Freddie, what you were saying. I mean, it's that feeling that you get when you go into any sort of X-Men or superhero movie.
Yeah.
You have that idea of hope, and it builds up and everything. That oh man, this movie's going to be good, and it honestly didn't let me down. And I feel like that might have been why I was feeling happy throughout, because I was constantly just being pleased by this movie.
Well, see, for me, the only other two movies that have made me smile like this are Star Wars: The Force Awakens and
Right.
Captain America: Civil War,
Yes.
and this
Civil
movie
War.
now.
Oh, yeah.
Those movies all made me smile all the way through, and I didn't think I was going to add this movie to my list, and I have added it to my list of my favorite movies of 2016.
Initial thoughts for me. I'm probably going to be the most skeptical out of us three, and I first off, I liked the movie. Okay, I really did like the movie. I grew up playing X-Men video games, X-Men Legends, and really Wolverine's one of my favorite superheroes of all time. And we'll get into his cameo in this movie. We'll talk about that. There are a couple things I didn't like about the movie, but overall I really liked it, and I had a good time watching it.
You guys want to start off with like the positives first, and then we can like move to the negative sides or
definitely.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about positives.
Right.
Characters in this movie.
Okay,
Big positives.
characters.
Every
yeah.
actor played their part, and I felt like
great cast.
none of their
It
movies,
was
none
a
of
great
their parts
cast,
were acted very well.
They
Oh,
had
great.
a lot of ground to cover in this movie. with
Yeah,
the
you gotta
amount of
give 'em that.
characters. I know a lot of critics are kind of talking about how convoluted the plot is, but they had so many people to introduce for this storyline to be able
Especially
to make
since they're
sense.
starting the whole universe over
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
honestly, ever
This
since Days of
introduction
Future
for
Past.
every one of these characters.
Exactly. I gotta say, I really did like the introductions of the characters.
Oh, I thought it could have been done way more sloppy with the amount
yeah, definitely.
of information that they had to cover in this.
Imagine.
If this had been the hands of the wrong director, this could have been done
Exactly,
terribly, and Rotten Tomatoes would have just totally destroyed
Which they
this
kinda
movie,
already
which they
did,
kind of
but-
already did.
They did destroy that movie.
They honestly did.
You should not listen to the critics on this movie, no matter
Go
what.
see it for
They
yourself.
you go see the movie and you be the judge. Even
Right.
if you are the most skeptical person about this movie, you should go see it.
Right.
I've been a skeptic about movies before, and I went and go saw them. And I was like, wow, I was totally wrong about that.
Right.
But critics don't always listen to the reviews. Sometimes you're going to need to listen.
And you got to think,
Sometimes
the critics, most of the time they do know what they're talking about, but it's just their opinion.
Yes,
Yeah.
but in this case,
Everyone
I
has
really don't
different
think the critics
opinions.
do know what they're talking about.
I don't think it was an accurate assessment. I mean, this is our opinion, of course,
No,
too. But
we just read some reviews and we get their
Right.
points, but at the same time, it's like you're doing a review on the wrong movie.
Right.
I will say that if you've been keeping up with the X-Men cinematic universe thus far, and you've watched all the movies, and now you're thinking, well, the critics gave this a bad review. Should I go see it? Definitely go see it and finish out the trilogy that they've started with First Class, Days of Future Past, and now Apocalypse. Finish that out. You owe it to yourself to finish that
And guess what?
trilogy.
You'll love it.
Let's get into the movie itself here. It's 2 hours and 43 minutes long of basically just action-packed.
Action,
Just
comedy,
constantly.
seriousness, all packed into
it was,
2 hours and 24 minutes,
I honestly,
23.
It starts out with
Something
introducing Apocalypse and how he comes about and everything. In ancient Egypt, he's basically considered a god because of his initial power. And his initial power is that he can switch consciousness with other people. And so over time, he switched consciousness with so many other mutants that he's gotten all of these powers to himself. And he's basically a god to these other people. And before he can complete, this last one that, I think it was the one where he can heal himself. He was switching consciousness with a person so he could live forever, basically. And before that happens, I guess some people rebelled against
some people
him.
did rebel.
In ancient Egypt, some of his followers
And
rebelled against him.
this movie right away starts off. People die.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just put that out before.
They do not shy away.
They do
from
not
death
kill
in this
shy
movie.
away at all.
a ton of people in this movie, and
Oh, yeah.
in the beginning, guy gets smashed
Not
with a rock. Just
Too many, but
But
it's a decent
I
amount.
mean, with
It's a very
all
decent
the
amount.
everything that happens in this movie, I'm pretty sure there's a good amount.
that's
of
a pretty
dead people.
decent
Everyone
amount.
in the opening scene dies except for Apocalypse.
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's put it
basically,
that way.
all his
Oh,
four
yeah.
horsemen that they talk about, he has them for each generation that he comes around and everything. They all got killed
They
in
all
the first
died.
time. They're all trying to protect him because they
Oh, yes.
believed he's a god
Pretty bad.
or whatever. But so he finally wakes up and
It was a little bit ex machina how
A
he
bit ex
survived all
machina.
of that, but
Yeah.
I'll give it to him. He's a mutant.
he's a
super
godlike
powerful.
mutant.
I think we should talk about the actor.
Oh,
Oscar Isaac as
Yes.
Apocalypse
As an actor, as
was
Apocalypse.
amazing.
I was
Oh,
blown
yeah,
away,
he-
honestly.
I loved it.
I mean,
did
you
a
don't
great
see
job.
him in roles like this.
Yes,
Never, yeah.
You
He's
don't-
starting to come up. He's done movies before.
Right.
Obviously, he did
Indie films.
He actually did Ex Machina.
He did,
It's
right.
funny.
Yeah.
Ex Machina. He did another movie. It's about the folk
Inside
singer
inside the mind of
and then
Moonbase.
Force Awakens. Oh my goodness.
Obviously.
That was like the
I-
stepping stool for
I could
him.
do a whole video on that. We'll get that
Right,
some other
yeah.
time. But he did amazing as his role in Apocalypse. That's how I feel.
Right, and this is his first role, honestly, like
Yes.
a character.
Yes,
like
this is his first role being kind of a bad guy. In Ex Machina, I've seen it, so he's a little bit, but he's not. It's for a purpose. In this one, he's bad guy
Right.
because
That's the character. He's
the
a god. He has a
character.
god
That is
complex.
his character.
Right.
He believes he's a god.
Right.
When really he's a mutant.
I mean, he's worshipped as a god.
He's
I'll
basically
say it that way.
he was the first mutant. So all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
humans are the humans see him as a god.
One thing,
basically.
one reoccurring thing. Every time he meets a mutant, he treats them as one of his children.
to get them to join.
Yes,
him
yeah,
and everything.
yeah.
But as soon as they've
a good tactic.
run their course and outlived their usefulness to him,
He doesn't really.
he
care.
doesn't care, and that
yes,
proves
we
that
see
proves
that.
yeah.
You see that at the end of the movie whenever
right.
he looks at Angel and he's like, waste of or
Yeah,
he says something
yeah.
Weak,
to
like
him.
honestly.
you're weakling or something like that. So Oscar Isaac did a great job.
So that's Apocalypse.
Yes, Apocalypse is all about strength. The strength will survive, and the weak will fall. Basically, Darwinian evolution.
Right. Apocalypse wakes up from ancient Egypt, sleeps 8,000 something years. Finally
And
wakes up after
immediately
these.
goes-
It's kind of strange how he wakes up too. I just want to bring that up real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. They didn't really explain that too much.
Just
They
to
just
advance
they
the
threw
plot,
yeah
how
they
he
threw it
woke
in
up.
there really fast is how I felt. There's this
yeah.
group of people that I guess are what was it? They
just-
preferred the old gods or something.
I guess so. They had. I guess it was sort of a culture
Some
thing
sort
that
of
they
cult.
had, and they.
Yeah.
Yeah, Moira McTaggart was talking about how there were cults and stuff, and
Right.
then somehow they.
They recited
just-
the ancient ritual.
Yeah, and then it
woke
woke him
up. Apocalypse.
And it was also kind of convenient how McTaggart was in the cave right at the exact moment.
Right.
But I mean,
it was just
the,
kind
the
of a
fact
random.
remains is that he awoke.
He did
and
awake.
then he-
Yeah.
he-
They just
you know,
they
he
needed
came
that to get the plot going.
I gotta
A
say,
big deal on that.
I didn't see that when I saw the movie personally because
Right.
I was kind of caught up in the moment of the movie.
Right, that's
so
true.
I
They do
didn't
do a
I
good
didn't
job
catch
with
what
that.
you guys caught.
All right, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think if I watch it a second time, I'll probably catch that.
Right.
It is an Ex Machina moment, you know,
Right.
how
Yeah.
she's there, but him coming back, they had to bring her back some way.
They had to
him.
make her important in some capacity.
They also reintroduce her character and tie her into the plot because
Because of-
she just so happened to be there, so Professor Xavier would find her there. He uses Cerebro to find whatever disturbance, caused it when he awoke and everything. There was that giant earthquake and everything, and she just so happened to be there, and they had to get reacquainted and everything.
Basically, he wouldn't have gone to Egypt
Right.
had she not been there.
Plot of the movie overall is
Right,
Apocalypse
plot.
trying to take over the world,
Yes,
and he does that almost into the
Yeah.
world.
Apocalypse
They come in,
reassembles his
reassembles
four
his four,
horsemen
finds them,
of
and
Storm,
The X-Men basically have to go defeat him. That is
Psylocke.
that is your basic plot.
Right,
basically.
Angel and Magneto are his four horsemen.
Yes.
Well, let me say one more thing about Apocalypse before I forget it.
Right.
I think, for me personally, that Apocalypse isn't a very complex villain, because you like to have a villain where you can see both sides, kind of like
Right.
Magneto in this movie, where he's very, very complex and has a lot of layers that you can peel back.
Right.
Apocalypse doesn't really have that. He just kind of wants to destroy the world and
Right.
rebuild it
In
with,
his
with
vision.
mutants.
Right.
But you can't really fault Bryan Singer for that. That's
Right.
just Apocalypse's character.
That is just a character.
I think the next character we should talk about is Magneto.
Magneto, yes, we'll
Very
transition
good.
to
Yeah.
that.
Michael Fassbender.
And I gotta say,
Oh,
the
man.
two characters
Stupidly good.
the two characters that
Stupidly
stole the
good.
show
It's insane.
were Michael Fassbender as Magneto,
Yes, and
slash
Evan
Eric,
Peters.
and then Evan Peters as Quicksilver. But
Definitely.
we'll talk about Magneto first.
I gotta
Oh
throw
my
James
goodness.
McAvoy in there too. He does a consistent job every time.
Yeah, he
I
didn't have as
think.
big a
Definitely.
role.
He
didn't
as
have
I
a big
thought.
as
Yeah,
role.
He did pretty
He
good.
kind of
with
got
it.
outshined by Jean Grey even. Too.
Whoa.
Yeah, but we'll get
Yeah,
into
remember
that.
that?
We'll get into that.
Overall, we did. Professor X should have been a little bit more vital, but he did have a kind of important role because Apocalypse used him and
That's
wanted
true.
his
Oh yeah,
powers.
definitely.
He was
yeah.
gonna be the ultimate being if he could
And then,
get.
let's get
exchange
back. Let's get
bodies.
back to
Right,
Magneto
right.
here before we get too
To
far.
our
part, yeah.
Magneto. Oh my goodness.
Michael Fassbender. At this point, after they cast
is-
Michael Fassbender
Oh,
as
yeah.
Magneto, I cannot see another actor playing a young Magneto.
Oh, and-
of course, other than Ian
Oh, yeah.
McKellen, beautiful work as Magneto when he's in his older age.
there were several
Oh,
times during this
man.
movie when Magneto was in action, and I was like, oh my
Ian McKellen.
oh my gosh, that's
That's
Ian McKellen.
Yeah,
That's
that's Ian McKellen.
it's
Oh,
so
yes,
crazy
definitely.
how well those two characters
Right.
mesh.
It's just been so nice to see him just, progress over time throughout
Yeah,
his time in the
definitely.
X-Men movies. He's just really fallen in
Yeah,
to his
oh,
character.
yeah,
And in
oh,
this
yeah.
movie, it's no exception at all. He does an
I would
exceptional...
say out of every single character in this entire 3 movies, this movie in particular, he has the most character
By
development.
far the most
I think
complex.
everyone can agree on that.
that forest scene.
This forest
Oh
scene,
my
yeah,
gosh.
Just gotta
but
tie
that scene was so I started crying.
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
gonna
I was
lie.
right there.
I was like, no.
Like you see,
And
it's extra sad because he saved a man's life, and that's what he was doing not only for himself but to
Yeah.
show in a way that he's showing Charles, Professor Xavier, that he's
Yeah.
following his lifestyle. He's
Yeah,
giving
exactly.
he's trying his way. That's what he brings up a lot. He said your way didn't work, but it only just backfires on him constantly, and so that's where that character development and all these layers come in because. He feels like if he does a good act or something like that, it's only going to end in bad stuff for him, which unfortunately it does.
It did in this movie.
It does constantly.
And
Plus his childhood. and
Oh, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, Magneto is
Auschwitz.
definitely the
Auschwitz.
most layered
Come
character
on,
from
Apocalypse.
this
That was
trilogy.
such a low blow
Low
bringing
blow.
him to Auschwitz. Why would you do that?
But,
I mean,
however, it was
smart move, I
awesome
guess, but
seeing that
whatever.
terrible place destroyed by Magneto. So
Oh,
it's
that
just,
was awesome.
it was just crushed, it's gone.
But yeah, the forest scene when his whole family gets killed, that's the turning point for
Yes.
him. He had settled
One
down
blow
finally.
too. It's not.
One blow.
It's not even like a few blows. It's one blow, family gone,
He's instantly
or so he
the
thinks.
light switches back on.
So his family's
He
not
thinks
really
his
gone.
family's gone.
We all know
That's true.
because Quicksilver,
It's
is
his son.
Mhm.
Right.
His wife
Right.
and child had to die. The way they did it when the guy shot the arrow, I feel like he should have done it purposefully. Where
Yeah, that was
not,
a bit of a
accidentally was kind of
it was a bit
dumb.
sloppy.
I mean, because it would have made sense
Right.
for him to not know what to do. There's a ton of birds flying around his
Exactly.
face, and he knows that the
was
little girl
a
is
split-
controlling
a
it.
split
daughter's-
He would
decision.
have
Yeah.
been confused,
A
and
split,
it would have
yeah.
been completely understandable if he would have shot the arrow that
Right.
killed them both.
It was a split
on purpose,
decision.
rather than accidental, because
He could
that just makes
instantly-
it feel lucky.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool to see his daughter had powers that
was
animals.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was
Can you imagine if she would have survived, how much stronger she could get with that?
Yeah.
Of course, we'll never know that due to the fact
Right.
of her death in the
Yeah.
movie.
But yeah,
And
that
it
was
was
the
really
that was
sad.
the changing point. It just keeps leading back to that that original character confliction that you see between Charles and Eric.
Yeah,
and
he made a
nothing-
family,
You know,
nothing
went into
worked.
hiding.
Right.
It really plays out in the movie towards the end. He realizes, my family is still technically alive because
Right.
of his
Yeah,
X-Men.
yeah.
So like
So,
it's good because he does get redeemed.
He does.
He
does.
stops.
Right.
He stops all the destruction he's doing, and he
Mhm.
tries to conflict with Apocalypse.
Right.
We're done talking about Magneto. We should
Right.
segue
Yeah,
into Quicksilver.
Ooh.
My favorite scene in Days of Future Past
Was
the
the Quicksilver scene.
Oh, yeah.
And
They
this,
outdid
the
it.
song
They
they
outdid
did
it.
it with
Oh, yeah, they-
Sweet Dreams. As soon as he steps in, he takes the footstep, and the song cues, and he's like, huh. And he goes, saves everyone. And
It's like it's just a normal.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
another day for him because that's
It
the
is.
character. That's his character. Ever since, like you were saying, Days of Future Past, that was such a good scene.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Quicksilver.
It
I
was
was like,
amazing.
there's no way they're gonna be. It's just gonna be cliche when they do it in this one.
But
no.
they topped
it
it.
didn't.
They
It
topped
really
it. This time
wasn't.
he was
And it was
saving
two
a
big
mass
scenes.
amount
Right.
of
Yeah,
people.
yeah. Some
Right.
people did think
The
it was
whole
cliche, but I
school,
didn't.
in fact.
No, I
I
didn't.
did not at
Oh,
all.
no.
We
not
also
at
have
all,
to talk
yeah.
about the scene where he takes on Apocalypse.
Oh my
He
gosh.
just
my
walks up
God.
and he's quirky. He goes, huh?
Yeah.
And he just bam
My
punches him. And
God.
he's
Yeah,
just
like that
punching,
whole
punching,
that
punching.
whole that whole stereotype.
Guys.
Like, if he moves so fast, why can't he take on Apocalypse? Well, he
Oh,
does.
he does,
He
but of
totally
course
does. It's this
happened.
kind of thing where
Oh my
Apocalypse is
gosh,
doing
that
his
was-
thing.
You see,
The mood is very serious and everything, and then out of nowhere, things just slow down really quick, and you
And
just
you're
see
like, oh,
Quicksilver,
what's
and he
gonna
just
happen?
looks at Apocalypse, and he just just starts beating the
And you
crap
see,
out of him.
in
Oh my
the
gosh.
in the theater
I
with all
love
this,
that
scene.
at the premiere, everyone started laughing because it is a
Yes.
funny scene, and of course, it
Apocalypse being
ends
so
in a kind of
powerful,
a
he
really
adapted
painful
to
note.
it, but
Oh yeah, right.
by far one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. That when he beats up Apocalypse,
Just purely
it was just-
because of how unexpected it was.
yes,
you know?
yes, it
That
was so much needed in that moment because
right.
people
Everything
were
was
getting hurt.
You know, it was so serious and everything. You almost feel emotionally drained, but then that just comes in and just lightens
It just-
the mood.
yeah,
it gets you
bounces
ready
you
for the
back
rest
up.
of the movie because
So
it
I
is a
think-
long
I think
movie.
we can all agree our two favorite characters of this film are
Probably Magneto,
Magneto and
yes, I
Quicksilver.
think that is very
They stole the
well
show.
written on all of them.
Strong,
Without a doubt.
strong third runner up though is James McAvoy.
James McAvoy is
You wanna
Magneto.
get into him?
Yeah, just a little bit because
Yeah,
right.
we have so many
Oh,
characters
totally.
covered.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot
there's
to cover.
That's-
it's
James
crazy.
McAvoy.
James McAvoy.
Oh,
One of my favorite actors, him and Michael Fassbender, just today paired together. They're amazing chemistry
It's
working
just
on
like-
set.
they
It's
all
perfect.
really
They
good
perfect
chemistry.
work perfect together and everything. It's you believe it all the time. Every
just
time
like
they hop
Ian
on screen.
McKellen.
They just seem
Yeah,
like
and
old
Patrick
friends,
Stewart,
you know?
every
They just
time.
seem
It,
like
wor-
old
it
friends.
seems like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see you later, old friend. Every time
Oh,
he
yeah.
says that.
I mean, I
oh,
believe
man.
it.
I do.
I believe it.
I
when
feel
they
like
say
that. Because I think they're at least decent good friends in real life, right?
Probably.
Yeah, they are. They've
They're
even
pretty
they've
good
even
friends.
hung out with Patrick Stewart and
Right,
Ian
you're
McKellen.
right.
There's pictures of
Right.
them, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
But yeah, no,
Awesome.
James McAvoy. There was no exception to this one. Again, he's just a very consistent
Does it again.
actor, very
Does it
serious
again.
Accent is
actor. and
there.
Accent
It's
is
the best
there.
part.
He acts like Patrick Stewart would as a young guy. One little thing I do have to say though is that there were some sort of modern kind of traits that he pulled off. Like you'd see this in 2016, the kind of trait that he was doing. Like what
Give
I'm
me an
talking
example.
about. Yeah, okay, so like when he was in Cerebro and stuff, he's like, "Are you using that to spy on?"
Moira McTaggart.
Yeah, McTaggart, and he's like, what do you think? No, and then he was like, quickly, he's like, huh, yeah, like that quirky kind of little
Yeah.
thing, and you can't expect him to like completely just go
Yeah,
Patrick
yeah.
Stewart all the way. Like, I'm glad that he brought some creative, he put his own spin on it.
Yeah,
as I would
yeah,
say.
yeah.
But
So
fantastic job all throughout.
great.
Loses
Definitely
his
great.
hair.
Yeah,
See how
I
he
was-
loses his hair because Apocalypse is trying to switch bodies with him.
That
and
whole
everything.
scene where he decides to take on Apocalypse in Apocalypse's head.
I think we
and-
can use that scene to segue into Jean Grey Phoenix.
Oh yes.
Jean Grey Phoenix.
Okay,
Oh
if we're
my
gonna talk
goodness.
about a fourth favorite character, it's gonna be
Yeah,
Jean
it's gonna
Grey.
be Jean
I mean,
Grey.
Yeah.
I mean, just out of the sheer okay,
Well,
the new
I-
actress, Sophie Turner.
Sophie
Okay.
Turner plays Jean Grey, and Ty Sheridan plays Cyclops. Both of them were very,
Great.
very good additions to this. They were.
They did a fantastic job.
I mean,
Jean Grey though, I feel like they really balanced the perfect character for her at that age.
Yes.
How she was supposed to act at that age, because she was still,
she's probably in her 20s,
right,
a little bit
early
younger.
20s and whatnot. Charles Xavier is still setting up all those mind barriers inside her
Yeah.
head and everything, and that was a constant thing that he's stressing.
We got to see her and Cyclops' arc kind of start.
Yeah, you see the arc start.
And so we kind of,
right.
and you were saying the next movie is going to be the 90s or something like that.
We'll probably talk about Cyclops
more.
Next,
right.
but my thoughts on Jean Grey, I think Sophie Turner pulled it off really well.
Very good job.
She just she stole the show at the end of the movie, which was
by
awesome.
far.
How they did that, it was great.
Tip of the hat to they actually showed the Phoenix whenever she finally reached her power and everything. You see
awesome.
the fiery Phoenix kinetic energy burst out of her and everything.
She kills Apocalypse.
And she destroys Apocalypse.
Oh my gosh.
She obliterates Apocalypse in like 10
Apocalypse.
seconds. Like, that just shows how powerful she is. Like you read about it in the comics and everything, and you're like, Jean Grey is this basically, like, if Apocalypse is a god, then she is like a god for gods or something, because she is just, because of her unconscious power. Right.
Yeah.
Because
she can't control.
She can't control the Phoenix part, and they just showcased it.
It was perfect
showcase of that.
So
since just to try to keep this as short as possible,
right?
With the amount that we have to do, we'll go ahead and talk about Cyclops.
Well, we should talk about Cyclops and Havoc at the same time, since they're brothers.
True.
In this movie.
Yeah.
We find that out.
You want to talk about Havoc because of his screen time?
All right,
yes, Havoc. Havoc's kind of is a quick cameo, and
Lucas Till plays Havoc in First Class. And
also
wasn't in
every single one of them. Yeah, but unfortunately, we see Havoc killed in this.
Havoc does die, and it's a shame, because you do need character deaths.
And
you do need character
deaths.
deaths.
And I'm glad that they didn't bring him crawling back at the last minute. I hate when movies do that.
They weren't afraid of killing people. Okay,
they weren't afraid of killing people.
And plus, if he wouldn't have died, Cyclops wouldn't have died.
Right, that's true.
Yeah,
because Cyclops wouldn't have seen a reason to be there.
That was character development.
Because Cyclops was already talking about leaving. He's the one who took Nightcrawler, Jubilee, Jean Grey, and himself.
He was
to
the
the
kind
mall
of too cool for school kid before his brother died.
And we're gonna take a quick side note.
Okay.
They went and saw Return of the Jedi in 1983. Awesome. A Dream, and they use that little quick. The third movie is always the worst. Oh my goodness, that is so false about the X-Men.
Yeah,
series.
either
the
they
third
were
movie
either
to me.
Poking fun at it.
Yes, they're
poking
fun
at the old one.
And the old one too.
Yeah, X-Men Last Stand.
X-Men 3 sucks by...
X-Men 3 was particularly nutty. Like, bad nutty.
Yeah.
Like, very bad nuts on that one.
Havoc, he had a really interesting role at first and everything. You see him.
It was pretty cool to see him, too.
Like, when
and he
Professor X is getting when he's getting attacked by Apocalypse in his mind and everything through Cerebro and everything, he's the one who has to destroy Cerebro and everything, and then even Professor Xavier says wreak havoc and everything. And you're thinking in your mind, he's going to be such a big character.
At that point, I thought he was like going to be he's going to steal the show.
He's going to be like he's going to fight Apocalypse.
Cool to see his powers really quick, but I thought they would have used it a little bit more into the story
before they killed him, at least.
Yeah, I thought he would have made it to the final scene, honestly.
And then
I guess the problem I had with it is that it was just very unexpected, and their excuse was that he was the closest to the blast. I mean,
right, and Quicksilver. I mean, honestly, I feel like he would have seen him.
Cyclops, you actually cared for him in this movie. The past X-Men
what was
movies,
his name?
I gotta be honest.
It was
I gotta
Ty
be
Sheridan.
honest. Yeah, it was the first movie that I actually cared about. I'm not gonna be honest.
I really liked Cyclops in this movie.
They showcased his
power. I honestly probably liked him in my top 4 characters, I guess. Like, I really liked Cyclops in this movie.
I don't know, because I don't know about you guys, but in the older one, I feel like he was one of the weaker X-Men. I feel like everyone viewed him as one of the weaker X-Men.
And in the comics, that's not true, because he's the leader of the X-Men.
Right, he's supposed to be super powerful.
And I guess they're not really going that route again, but
showcase his power.
They showcase power. He's pretty powerful.
He's there in the end,
helped
fighting
kind
Cyclops.
of stop Apocalypse.
Yeah.
He was using he was like, ah!
Yeah. Doing the whole screen.
I honestly really like Cyclops in this movie. I think Ty Sheridan nailed it as Cyclops. He did great.
We haven't even talked about Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, Mystique.
Yeah, but I gotta say, this time around, it's kind of like...
It's kind of getting old.
Yeah, Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Yeah, great. She was more Jennifer Lawrence than really Mystique in this movie. But it makes sense because, she's now viewed as a hero. Now
True,
in
and she
this
doesn't
world,
want
she's
that.
viewed as a hero, and she doesn't want. So it makes
doesn't want
sense.
that kind of
It
publicity.
makes sense in the movie.
Yeah.
Of course, towards the end of the movie, she is Mystique.
I mean, if you
And
want
that's
to,
good.
if you want
That's
to talk
good.
about
Yeah, I like that.
complex character, she's a very complex character.
She's
She's
complex.
a female version of Magneto. If you
Yeah,
really want
pretty
to get
much.
down to it,
Yeah.
she has the same character complex as him. She's had a hard life before, and Eric was kind of her mentor and everything. So she's
Charles
just
too.
that's
'cause
true.
They met together.
She's taken that kind of dual mentality. She's more leaning towards Eric's mentality, but she really
she's
does.
sided with the X.
But she sides with the
Yeah.
X-Men, right?
You know,
That
since we're
fully-
talking about Mystique, I think we can go on and talk about the Four Horsemen we had.
Right.
Let's
What?
just hit them off real quick. Storm, she's Egyptian now.
She's actually
They
Hey, she
finally,
actually
they
has her
finally did
accent
it right.
again.
Yeah,
Right.
that's how the comics were supposed to be. She's not freaking Halle Berry.
right.
Her
She
name
gets
is
her
Aurora.
she gets her white hair
Aurora.
when Apocalypse infuses her with power.
But honestly, she kind of sucks in this movie. She didn't do much.
Again, she's
But
another
no,
utilized.
she's actually
I'm not saying that she's a bad
Right.
actress, because she
Her-
did well as Storm.
Her
She just-
character, her power. and
Yeah,
everything.
she
Like
just
the
kinda-
way they used the character.
the
wasn't
word that comes to my
utilized
mind is
as
just
much as it
underutilized.
yeah.
for like
She's a very
20 minutes
confused
straight.
character. She's
Or-
conflicted as well, but just not
Yeah.
in the sense that you really like to see. Like she's
Yeah.
like, Mystique's my hero and everything, and then towards the end
Yeah,
of everything,
exactly.
she's flip flopping
And
sides.
I mean, it
so
kind of
much.
plays in where when she sees Mystique in the fight, she's kind of like, oh.
But she doesn't do anything about it
I
till
know,
the very
yeah.
end.
So
till
that
the very
kind
last
of was
minute.
like. you
She was a
coulda
bit
used
of
her
an
more.
annoyance, right?
And they-
Psylocke, I love the character of Psylocke.
Very
I'm glad
powerful
she's in
character.
It. Yeah, they could have done a lot more
So
with
much
it.
more. I just feel like it was
her character
for the sake
and
of runtime.
Yeah. There's just not much.
They
can
had
do
to make
with that
They had to
amount of
make
time.
they had to make a cut somewhere.
Yeah.
I feel like, but
Angel.
Angel was totally
Angel,
underutilized.
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like.
but I
Didn't he die?
loved.
Yeah,
he died.
He's
Yeah.
basically dead.
But I did
yeah.
really love how they made him a horseman because he was a horseman in the comics and in the X-Men animated series.
Right.
And I'm really glad that they stuck with that.
They
and
did
they
do
did
that.
and it was awesome.
He has those awesome.
And then, of
wings
course-
and
yeah,
everything.
the
And of
wings.
course, Magneto. We've already talked about it. We don't need to
Right,
talk about it
Magneto,
anymore.
super powerful,
We've-
gets even more powerful when he's infused with power from
Oh, yes.
Apocalypse.
You want to hit the Wolverine scene real quick?
Yeah,
Oh
let's
my
get on
goodness!
that.
I
Yeah,
think
that's a good
we
idea.
should end with that because I think we're
Oh,
out
okay.
of time.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, so what we're gonna try to do in our videos, in our movie reviews, is we're
that's
gonna
good
get
point, yeah.
a controversial quote from a critic, and we're just gonna put it on the screen and
Right.
talk about it, say what we think about
Our
it.
opinions of it.
So for this movie, we promised you we would talk about the Wolverine scene, and one critic wrote, this is quoted by the way. Just when you think the narrative is now set to accelerate on a straight and narrow track toward an exciting climax, a really buff wild man with long sharp claws and unkempt hair turns up for no discernible reason other than to make a token appearance. That is Todd McCarthy from The Hollywood Reporter, and we're all going to say our piece on what we think about that.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, you go first since you're the X-Men.
All right,
You're the
okay.
Wolverine fan.
All right.
I did not think it was unnecessary. Okay,
No.
I feel like I personally think it was appropriate because at the end of Days of Future Past, they introduced Stryker in Days of Future Past, and they had to explain that somehow because he has to get his metal claws back because he has wooden ones in Days of Future Past. In the past, that
Looking
is.
at
That's
it.
Wolverine right there. One thing that kind of irritated me is that at the end of Days of Future Past, Mystique was Stryker. They
Yeah, they
implied
explained that too well.
and they
didn't
didn't
really.
explain that in this one. But as far as the scene goes, he didn't have any lines, but he was still freaking
He was
Wolverine.
Wolverine all the way.
Oh,
Whenever you think Wolverine, you think Hugh Jackman.
Oh yeah.
And again, in this, he's the Wolverine. He's Weapon X in this
Yep.
because you see Cyclops and Jean Grey. They come across this cage and everything, and he's inside of it, and they think it's an animal inside, but it's just him
it's a
because
Wolverine.
he's just been turned into Weapon X. He even has the headgear.
Yes,
and everything
the
from the
headgear
comics.
from
It's
the
so
comics.
much
That they did
like
that.
Only
Weapon
thing they
X.
have from the headgear was a little red line.
Right. That's the
Yeah,
only thing.
yeah.
And then
Wow.
the time progresses, he kills everybody in there.
Oh,
and then you
it's-
see
it's
that
like
other-
bloodbath.
Yeah, it's actually really bloody for PG-13.
Yeah.
But you see the little sort of character arc between him and Jean Grey.
Yeah, and I'm very curious as to
Right.
how they're gonna play this out.
Right.
Because Jean Grey, in this timeline, met Wolverine
Right.
when she was really young.
When she was really young, and then
Yeah.
in Days of Future Past, when he finally does remember and wakes up and everything, he sees Jean Grey in the mansion. She knows who he is. Scott knows who she is, and they have that same kind of relationship to where
That they've
she
always
loves
had,
him, he
you know.
loves her. Scott knows. You get that feel. So I'm anxious to see how that plays out.
He goes in, slaughters everyone.
Kills everybody.
Everyone dies.
He doesn't
except for Stryker.
He doesn't even
escapes.
say a single line.
Yes,
in the whole thing,
and his
but
appearance was
Yeah.
all he needed, though. I think.
Yep.
The screams, the
Yeah.
grunts, perfect. Yeah. So guys, if you agree with the critics' comment, let us know in the comments down below. If you disagree with the critics' comment, let us know in the comments down below.
Yeah, we want to know what you think about that. It's just something cool we were trying to do.
Some way to connect with you guys, get your ideas, your opinions. Right. So the last couple of things that we want to talk about before we wrap up here is the Stan Lee cameo, which is pretty crazy.
Yes, very surprising.
The War Room, that's awesome, and then the
Danger
after
Room.
Credit scene. Yeah, the Danger Room. My bad. Yeah. So Stan Lee's cameo in this. How do you guys feel about that?
Stan Lee, he hasn't cameoed in an X-Men movie. I mean, other than Deadpool, since X-Men 3, The Last Stand, which was Brett Ratner.
Water hose.
The water hose, yeah.
And everything.
So it was just surprising to see him in a role, and I don't know why he chose. I mean, it may not
this
have been
movie
his choice
to come back and do it.
Yeah.
Cameo. No words were said. It was the scene when Apocalypse launches all the missiles up in the air and everything, and he's an innocent bystander watching all the missiles shoot up in the air with his wife in front of his house.
So if you guys know why Stan Lee, cameoed here and not in the last several movies, just let us know. The Danger Room, that whole ending scene was amazing.
It was so nice.
Oh my gosh, the classic costumes, I almost cried. That was one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite scene in the entire movie, just because they got the classic costumes. Quicksilver's costume was just like the comics, and
silver
Cyclops'
and
eyepiece,
Dude, yes, Cyclops'
yeah.
eyepiece. That's the part where I freaked out most. I was like, oh, he's got his eyepiece. He's gonna kick some butt now, really.
I wish we could have seen more of that. And the Sentinels, that was really cool too.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that. And the last thing that we want to talk about is the after credits scene.
Yes.
I'll go first with that. I gotta say, I didn't know what that was.
A bit confused by it.
It was further explained to me after watching the movie. It was a lead up to Mr. Sinister, and a connection to Deadpool and an opening for the Wolverine film, and also an opening for the Lady Wolverine.
So for those of you who don't know, the actual after credits scene is a scene of they're at Alkaline Lake or the Weapon X facility, wherever this is taking place.
Back where they were when Wolverine had his cameo.
Right, and you see a couple of men in suits, and one man is carrying this black briefcase into the area where Wolverine is being held in his cage. Of course, he's not there anymore. And there's this freezer that's there, and the man with the briefcase opens it up, and there's vials of Weapon X's blood, his DNA in there. He takes one, he just opens the briefcase, which is also like a portable freezer. Yeah, and he puts it in there, closes it. When you close it, you see SX on the briefcase, and then a combination lock. And that's tying into the idea that this could lead into Deadpool and everything,
Deadpool,
because it's the same company.
Because Ajax was apparently affiliated. Ajax from Deadpool, I'm saying, was apparently affiliated with Essex. I'm a little bit fuzzy on that, but I'll just take my friend's word for that.
Right. If you guys know about that, also comment in the comments.
What's going on there? Correct us. We know you are.
Comment in the comments.
So that just about wraps it up.
That's about it. Honestly.
Yeah.
That was a fun talk, you guys.
So what now?
I enjoyed that movie.
We will give this movie a rating real quick. What we're gonna do
is
each of us are gonna give it a rating from 1 to 10. And then we're gonna average out our scores to get a cumulative rating.
50-60.
Let's do this.
Okay. You guys want to just do this on the count of 3 or something?
Yeah. Let's see. 1. Okay.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Let's see what we did. 8.3 for me. I thought it was a very great movie. I thought it could have been a little bit better in some parts, but overall, a really great movie.
8.7. I guess it was just 4%. Wow, math, kids.
Yeah. 0.4.
We don't do math on here.
No, we don't do math on here.
I thought it was 0.4. I guess decimals better.
9.5, guys.
He really enjoyed
my favorite.
Freddie
I clearly enjoyed this movie.
He prefers it over Days of Future Past.
Yes, I do.
And I like Days of Future Past.
I honestly like Days of Future Past.
So that gives you a cumulative rating of
8.83.
8.8.
Yeah.
Definitely worth watching.
I'm
gonna.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I'm gonna go watch it again. Honestly, I know I am. That was awesome with the Fox intro. So if you guys like this video, if you liked our review of X-Men Apocalypse, feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, share the video, and everything.
Share the video. I want you to share this thing on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchats, like goody two shoes stuff. Say, hey, this is the Culture Nuts. You need to watch them. They're nutty.
Culture Nuts. Yes.
It might sound ridiculous at first, but once they watch, they'll love it.
Because it sounds ridiculous because we're nutty.
Oh yes,
it's because we're
very nutty.
Nuts.
We've got the nuts.
Yes, technically.
Wow.
Don't you want to see?
Don't you want to see those nuts? Yeah.
My God, this is getting far off hand.
We need to stop right now. In fact, I'm gonna go get some breakfast at 12:45 in the morning.
You know what? I gotta go home. So Culture Nuts.
I guess.
Out.
I guess I'm just gonna. They left.
Oh, this is your house. Where are you going?
I'm just gonna leave.
All right.